Okay, let's jump in and let me talk to you about pantographs. So, pantographs are a long design that go from one edge of the quilt to the other, and you can use a pantograph for a border or sashing on your quilt. But today we're going to talk about edge-to-edge designs from working from one side of the quilt to the other. And we're not using the automation. We're going to use the laser and paper patterns. But I want to talk to you about the different styles. Now, all these quilts here have been done with the automation, but I want to show you the different styles of using pantographs. So this one here was done on a hoop frame, and the automation is very intuitive, and it tells you where to shift your quilt from one side of the edge of the quilt to the other, so you don't see where I started and stopped. If I was pretty good. Now there are some dangling threads. Those aren't part of the quilt, just FYI. Anyway, so you can tell that I started on this edge and then I just worked my way across. So that was fun, and it was very easy to do, and I really I'm doing a shout out to the automation because it makes easy work of you shifting your quilt across it. But I'm going to show you a few tips that I learned as I was practicing. So this one here is a little different. This one here, the center section is edge-to-edge designs, but I used pantographs for the borders, and I used different ones. So that's kind of a fun one, showing you the different ways of using a pantograph on your quilt in several different styles and ways. And now this one here is just one big long, and I really like this one because it's kind of a fun one. It's just one edge-to-edge design from one side of to the other, and it's really fun on the back as well. So you can see that the circles going across, and the reason I use circles, let's talk about patterns and designs, is because there are a lot of straight angles in this, and I thought that the circles would set it off really nice. So when you're looking at a pattern or design, depending on which frame you're using, it's really important. If you're using a hoop frame, you need to remember that you need a pattern that's it's spaced a little bit more than, and not so dense. So let me just show you a couple patterns I pulled off the internet. And there are places to go that some of the websites out there, like Wasatch Quilters or Urban Elements, they have free patterns that you can print off. But be careful, because you want to look at the patterns and designs and make sure that they will work how you want it to work. So let me show you what I found, okay? So I paid for a couple from Ann Bright, and one of them was this primitive hearts, and I shrunk it down because I'm using a smaller machine. So the throat space of your machine really determines the size of the pantograph that you can quilt, because you don't want to hit the back of the machine and throw off your design. So make sure that when you pay for a design, that you're able to shrink it down to the right size that will work with your machine, or you can expand it to make it even larger, okay? So this one here is one that we're going to use today, and the reason I picked it is I tried several, okay? Because it has a little bit more spacing, and so as you're shifting on the hoop frames across, you need a little bit of give in case you don't get it exactly straight. So choose a pattern or design that will accommodate you not getting it on exactly straight. So that's why we're using this primitive hearts. Now this is one also that I paid for, but it's a little more dense. So if my shifting and my clamping was a little closer together, it might cross over and run into each other. So watch out and be careful. And if you're a beginner, it's not as easy as it looks. It does take practice, but it's so much fun. So make sure. Now this is one that it was a free design from Urban Elements. And I didn't choose this one because it's so directional. When you print it off, actually, if you print off the freebies from Urban Elements, know that they print off in 2 pages. So just print off page 1, okay? I'm saving you paper, but you could use that paper for practice. You never know. And then also with this one, they just gave me the center design. So they didn't give me the up, down design. So I had to fold it and flip it. And you just need to remember that you have to make it work. Because you don't want it go in the same direction. I couldn't figure out what was going on, but it was just this centerpiece. So yeah, it was a free design, but it's not as easy to, okay. So the name of the companies are Urban Elements. It's URBANELEMENTZ, and Bright Designs is another one I've used, and Wasatch Quilting Designs. I know they go up by another name on their website, and I'm not sure what that is, but that's another really good one to purchase designs. So anyway, those are a little bit. So let me show you what I did. So when you print off these designs, you'll print off several pieces of paper. Or with Urban Elements, you can buy a roll and have it shipped to your house. But I just thought it was easy this way. And then what they come with is they come with a little plus. And what you're doing is to make it a pantograph, you're going to fold and tape those little pluses so they're right next to each other. So you have one continuous line all the way across. And so that's how you'll make your paper pantographs. And you can see it's a fun little design, but just be careful because it's a little more dense. Okay, now this design was one of the freebies as well. And when you're working with the hoop frames, you can see that if you don't get your spacing really correct on it, then you're going to have a wide gap in between each of these rows. And it just depends on your print. I mean, maybe that will be okay because your design has a very dense print on it, lots of flowers, and so you could get away with that. But just be careful because of the spacing. And you just, again, you don't want to cross over. So that was a really fun one that was tried. Now, these two are a little more difficult, and they take a little bit more skill level. This one is like a hexagon. And so if you're not really sure about how to quilt it or design, just lay out some paper and practice. You know, practice your movements. Practice moving your pen across the design. Even lay some paper out across it so that you can get that muscle memory. You know, by practicing and doodling, it helps you retain your memory and that muscle memory retention. So it's really important for you to get to know the design before you ruin your beautiful quilt and say, that's not how I wanted to do it. So this is a little harder, and the spacing would have to be really correct. So it's probably not one I would want to use on a hoop frame, but man, it'd sure make a good practice one for you to get that down. And then this one was a really fun one. I thought it was fun and cute. And it was just the little bubbles going up, down, up, down, up, down. So those are that's a little bit about designs and just making sure that you're aware. Now, on the stand-up frames, you can work from the front of the frames and behind. What's nice about our frames is that this pole here, this pole that holds your backing, extends out and it makes it wider so that you could put a paper pattern across the front. Now, doing that, it means that every time you roll or move, you're going to have to move your pattern down as you roll and move, which is not a problem. You just learn to work with that. Or you can work from behind. Now, there's trade-offs. So when you're working from the front, you have to move your pattern. If you're working from the back, you won't see what's happening on your top, and so you'll be using the table, but you don't have to move your pattern. So you can just place your pattern down on the table, and then you don't have to move it anymore, okay? So you know, it's nice to try it and work both ways. And now with our machines, you can get laser and rear handles, so you can work from the front or the back. And it's not that hard. And we're going to jump in, and I'm going to show you on our Cutie Frame here. Okay, so notice that the Cutie Frame, it has legs today. It's not sitting on a tabletop, okay? We are going to have these legs. I was just in the showroom, and I needed a testing area, so I just used the frame that I had available and the Cutie Frame with the legs that I was testing, and they weren't great, by the way. Was what I was using. So they will be available probably in a couple more months, but they're not available yet. So don't worry, they're coming, but I just wanted to explain that. And I'm going to jump to the back of the machine. So you see right here, just let me explain what I did. Okay, so I started my quilt out. I started right here in the corner here, and I have quilted. So now I'm ready to shift and finish up my design going this way. I knew that we were going to run out of time, and I wanted to make sure I could get as much information for you that I could. And I know that there will be lots of questions. But again, I want to reiterate, just try it at home. It's so much fun. I mean, I was in the showroom here practicing how to do it and how to move my quilt and explain everything to you. But as I was doing it, I had people coming in, setting up for the classes, and everybody there came and sat down and tried it, and they had so much fun. They said, oh, I want one. I want to try this. And so just try it. You don't know if you're going to like it unless you do try it. So this is my challenge to you, is to just try it and see how you like it. And then you're going to know, hey, this isn't for me. I like the automation, or I just like to do free motion. But it is a lot of fun. So anyway, I'm going to show you how I'm going to shift my fabric. And this is how I showed when I was doing the automation, how to shift the fabric. So I'm going to unclamp this clamp here and this clamp here so that I can shift my fabric, because these really lock it into place. All right, and I'm just going to lay them back here. So anyway, because I want to pull my fabric this direction, what I'm going to do is unclamp these two little clamps. I'm going to leave this one in place, so that I can leave my needle down, because I don't want to lose my spot at all. And I'm just going to gently, and the only thing you're going to have to watch is these little elastic, because they can grab the carriage, and you'll be pulling along and going, ah, it'll catch. So just watch them. And then I'm just going to pull it. I'm going to unlatch this one. You can unlatch it, but leave that into place and just pull it along and see how slick that is. So now what I want to do is just pull it. Yep, got caught. I don't know which one of my clamps got caught right here. So excuse my behind. There we go. So I just want to pull it till I can finish it. So I'm going to pull it all the way down to right here, because I know that's the start. And when I get to the back, I'll show you my design and what I'm using. So this is another important thing, and I asked Courtney to remind me, but she's going to remind me to tack down my quilt. If you move off your quilt, okay, at all, which way am I supposed to go? Okay, okay, so that's okay. I look better half of me. Anyway, as long as it's my good half, that's important. Okay, so anyway, to tack down the edges of your quilt. If by chance you happen to sew off, your foot can get caught up underneath, and so I constantly forget to tack them down. So is that the one we're using now? This one? Okay. All right, gotcha. All right, so anyway, what I'm going to do now is that I've got this locked into place. I'm going to just kind of slide it down, and I have my clamps. I just need to position it just a little bit more. Okay, and now I'm going to slide this down just a tad, and I'm going to replace my clamps really quick. Sorry, it's a lot faster when I'm not talking to you, so it's okay. It's all good. Just tell me to shut up and get quilting. All right. So anyway, and also remember you have 4 clamps up here. Make sure that you lock all 4 into place. If you forget, it will catch and it will get caught under there and you'll like, what's going on here? So anyway, what I'm going to do is I turned off the stitch regulator and put the foot pedal on, and now I'm wishing I hadn't done that because I just need to sit back here and tack it down. So anyway, I'm going to hurry and plug it back in, okay? So just give me a minute or a second right here. And I don't want to plug that one in. I want to, okay, that's a different cord. So excuse me while I hurry and change back to my sure stitch because it will make it easier. I was going to show you how quick and easy it is. Now this cord right here goes into my sure stitch. Okay, so now I am plugged in and now I can use my sure stitch to move along the edge. And I am going to, so now I just wanted to show you, right here. Okay, so I want you to see right here. I have it so it's aligned right here. All right, and so now I can undo my needle, okay? And now I can move it, okay? So I could come back up here, and now I can just turn on my short stitch, and I can just move along the edge. Oops, sorry, got a little close there. And we're probably not going to go all the way down, but I'm just going to tack it down. All right, now I've tacked it down. Now I'm going to replace my clamps. I'm going to move my needle back to where it's supposed to start. So I'm going to cut it off and come back over here. And then I'm going to clamp my other area. I'm going to put my needle in the down position now that I'm going to put my needle down. There we go. And I'm right on. And now I'm going to come forward and clamp. All right. And make sure your clamps are turned the right direction. You should know what direction they are because of the words and the letters on them. And this one's right here. Okay. And so now I'm going to sit down and finish my design. And you can see I'm kind of off just a little bit, but it should be okay because the design is spread out enough. Sorry here. Now I have too many cords. Okay. Because my design's a little spread out here, it should be okay, okay? Because you can see that I'm a little off. But now I'm just going to turn it on and then finish following. And then I should be close to stopping about right here. But even if I've made my backing and my batting wider, so even if I sew off, it should be okay. So we're just going to use our laser, which is mounted here on this side. And I'm just going to follow my pantograph and finish it up. And this is a fun little design because it's just hearts. So choose a design that is a little easier to start with, because there's no need in starting with a hard, really dense design. You won't have good results and you may not really like it and enjoy it. I love a challenge as much as the next person, but being able to just actually make it look decent and good is really important. And put a practice piece of fabric on and just practice. And it is therapy. So if you're mad at your kids, husband, Why? Doesn't matter. This is your therapy. Go to your nice spot and just enjoy following the design with the little red dot. Am I to the end, Courtney? Nope. Okay. I didn't realize I had so much more. I just wanted to show you how to roll the quilt and do the second row, because I felt that these little tips here are really important. And sorry you have to watch me quilt, but I wish you could be the ones quilting, but nana, I'm the one. I love quilting. Okay, it looks like I'm to the end, and I'm going to stop. Okay, so I just want to talk to you about this design here, okay? So how I started. This design here starts at the bottom and stops at the bottom. Some designs will stop at the top and they'll start at the bottom. So depending on how your design starts and stops, that's the direction that you're going to want to learn for your starts and your stops. So I adjusted my quilt when I wanted to start, and I made sure that I was on the very tip. So I had my needle in the down position, and I positioned my laser at the bottom here because I'm working that direction with the design. Now, if the design started right here and you were working this direction, you have to be really careful. So you'd have to measure this much of your quilt and start down here and work your way up and go back down. So really watch how the design starts and stops. That's really important. And because these are such even sections, I'm able to start and stop, and it's really easy to find my start and stops, okay? So now what I'm doing is I've ended my quilt, and now I'm going to roll it and start my second row. And this is really important, okay? Because this design has a start and a stop point at the bottom. I can move my machine to the very lowest point in the pattern, and that's what I want to do. And then I want to move it back and roll it up. So I'm going to show you how I did this and how it comes out. You know, if you roll it further than that, you're going to have too wide of a space. So you just want to make sure, and I'm going to show you how using the hoop frame to make sure that your design is going to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, now you can lock your stitches, that's fine, but I'm off the edge of the quilt. So right now I can just cut off there and put my binding on. All right, so I'm just going to cut and now I'm going to move to the very bottom portion of my design. I'm going to put my needle back down in place, okay? Now I can roll it up. And so, are there any questions while I'm rolling? Okay, so let's answer a few questions first, okay? Okay. Yes, this same method works on the Q-Zone queen frame, the Q-Zone hoop frame, any of our rolling frames, okay? You're just not shifting, if you have a rolling frame, you're just not shifting the fabric from side to side. You're just rolling it up. So this same method that I'm showing you and finding your spot and rolling it, that's exactly what you'll do. So you'll find your lowest spot and roll it up on this end, like we're going to do this one, and you'll start. So that's how you will do this. So anyway, is there, yes, my placement guide right here for the laser. So I'm not exactly sure what you mean, okay? You kind of make your own placement guide on your pattern, depending on what design or pattern it is. So that's why if you're working from the back or the front, you'll either need to pin or position it, and then you need to mark your start and stops. So If you notice that I have a starting and a stop point, but the pattern's so easy that I can stop it along the way in each section. So if you have a hard time with a pattern that's really dense, finding a start and stop point, because this one right here, let me just show you. You just want to make sure that you're starting and stopping so that it's nice and cohesive. So you'd start here and you'd stop here and keep going all the way across. So anyway, let me unclamp it, let me shift it, or let me roll it. That's what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm just taking these two clamps off first. Now to shift it, it's easy because you have these clamps that you can keep one in place. When I'm rolling it, you're going to use your sewing machine to eyeball it so that you're not going to be too close to your clamp. But anyway, we're going to take this off. And I know we run out of time because there's a lot to cover. But anyway, now I'm going to kind of, this is what I'm going to kind of do. I like to take my hand and push it down to see how much area the clamp's going to take up. And I can know that I can just go back just a little bit more and push it down. And because I don't want the back of my machine to hit my clamp. I want to leave some of my designs showing, okay? So that looks like it's pretty good, okay? And so I'm just going to take this clamp here, and I'm going to clamp it back into place and just kind of look at it and make sure that there's enough showing. And yeah, with my design and everything, that looks pretty good. And that's why I shrunk down the design as well, because I didn't want to have a design that didn't fit within the throat of my machine. So I shrunk it, which I wish I could do to my hips. And it doesn't work. So anyway. All right, so now I'm just going to remember that I am going to reclamp this back into place and using my elastic clamps. Okay, and all right, and here we go. Now, remember, because I'm not going to be sewing up the edge, I'm not going to be really worried about this, okay? So I'm down at the lowest part of my design, and so I'm going to come back here, okay? And I am just going to, well, okay. If you look from the back here, you'll notice that my dot is off my pattern, okay? So now that I've got it on, what I want to do is I want to shift it so that it's back on my pattern, okay? So I'm going to unclamp this just a little bit. And you think, why are you fussing with it so much? You know, it's just kind of important to fuss with it a little. Now I'm getting a little closer. I just want to pull it just a little bit more. There we go. Now I'm at least on, so that's within my fudging area. So I can fudge it just a little bit. All right, and now that I've done that, I want to take this off and I want to move it. So I'm going to start where I stopped, or on this one, and I'm just going to fudge it just a little bit and pull it. All right. I'm just going to pull it so I can see my pattern, and then we're just going to take off and go. There we go. Ah, exactly right. Okay. And then I can come back to this spot right here, and it'll work out. Okay. All right, so let me just hurry and do this. And that's why I'm saying the spacing is really important. So as I unclamp it, maybe this side's just a little bit closer because I didn't get it on exactly straight. But that's why you want to use a pantograph or design that has a little bit more spacing, okay? And you'll get familiar with how to use it. Like the more you use it, the better you become, It's like anything. So anyway, I'm just going to come back over here, and I am going to undo my needle, and now I can come right over here and start right here. And now I'm starting right here. I'm going to, I thought I was not going to need to tack it down, but I do need to, so I'm just going to hurry and tack it down. Okay. And, oh, it didn't even tack it down. Did I run out of thread? Let's try that again. Let's do my needle up, needle down. All right, so something's going on with my bobbin thread, which is good because here's the spot to have the problem with your bobbin thread right here at the end. However, let me just show you how easy it is to look at seeing what's going on with your bobbin thread. So what you do is you're just going to unclamp one of the clamps, not all of them, and I'm going to get up under there and see what's going on. So I probably cut it a little too short, and that's why I didn't pull it up. So I'm just going to pull it just a little bit, and I'm just going to put it back in. It happens. And I just need to push it in. All right. And now let's get this back in place. Put the clamp back on. All right. And now let's see. Now put your presser foot down. I've made that mistake a few times myself, so make sure that you put it back into place, and then let's just let's pull it up, see if it grabs it. So, yep, there we go. Now we're going to have some results here. Sorry about that. Life doesn't always work the way I want it to. Perfect. I'm just going to tack it down. Okay, so we're at the end. I'm just going to cut it. Now I'm going to move back to right here, my lowest spot, and I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. So it's along this line right here, and I'm going to watch my pattern and get to where I need to be right there, and I might have to adjust my thing just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to put my needle in the down position here, and I'm going to work from behind. Let me clamp this back into place. All right, there's my clamps. Sorry about that. Oops, put them upside down. All right, and this one right here. Okay. But I hope I'm not boring you all too much because you're seeing so much of my backside, okay? I apologize. All right. Okay, so we have a question, and you have to make me stand up here and look at it. Okay. Okay, so Annie C says, do you use the FMQ foot with the feed dogs down? Yes, if the FMQ foot is the quilting foot or the free motion foot, or sometimes they call it the darning foot as well. And yes, you must have the feed dogs down. Some machines call for a plate to go over the feed dogs. Others, you can just position them up or down. You always need to have them down if you're doing free motion quilting of any design. So, good question. No, but the reason I did is if you decide, the question was, do you need to use leader claws with the Cutie Frame or any of our hoop frames? No, you don't need to use them, but they are very helpful. And let me explain to you why. When you get to the edge of your quilt, how do you quilt it if it's cut off right there? So you're going to have to make your backing and batting that much wider to accommodate that offset so that you can quilt all the way to the edge. The leaders just give you that extra little bit of fabric that you need and that you can use over and over and over again. Sorry, I had this hair. It's getting away from me. So that you can use them over and over again, and you don't have to waste any of your batting or batting. So it just, yes, you have to make it larger and wider, but not as much as if you were using the leaders with it. So just make sure that you understand that the leaders, if you don't have them, you don't want to use them, that you're going to have to make your backing and batting that much wider and longer so that you can quilt all the way to the edge of your quilt. So anyway, so now that I am on there, I'm just going to start working my way that direction. And because this design is working that direction, I hope my spacing is just going to be right on. So here we go. And this design here is a real fun design. And I'm not going to go all the way across. I just wanted you to see how it is when you roll your quilt using a hoop frame. And I'm going to show you my practice quilts. I'm going to let you understand. And no, you know what? I'm a little embarrassed at how they turned out, but you know what? It was a good learning experience. And I want you all to learn from my mistakes. All right, I'm going to stop right there. All right, and you see how it's close, but it's going to be a nice design. So it's going to work out across my quilt, and we're going to shift it this other direction, just like I told you. But instead of leaving that clamp on, you'll these two clamps off, and then pull it that direction. So really easy, you guys, because I did all the mistakes for you. I just wanted to show you my oopsie boo-boo quilt before we end today, and talk to you a little bit about, okay. So the lasers work really great. They work on any of our frames, but if you have one of our Unique machines that takes a different laser. So just know that the laser that works with the machines is not the same that works with the domestic machines. All right, so this is my oopsie quilt and my practice. And this is what I was talking about right here, about the spacing of your design. That's why you need to go to the lowest point and then adjust your quilt so it's not too far in between. So that, just learn from me. And if you will mark your lowest point and then shift your fabric, it should be good to go, because most of these designs are made for it to work exactly that way. So, all right. So check out the lasers, check out Pantographs, and then next week what I'm going to show you is, I'm really excited about that. I started the Pantograph using okay. I started the Pantograph using the free motion of the laser, but I'm going to finish this quilt with a different design using the automation. So I'm really excited to show you the automation as well, so that you can see the two different styles, get familiar with them, and then it'll kind of educate you as to, okay, that's for me, or that's not for me, or, you know, the sky's the limit when it comes to quilting. I want you to be able to quilt how you want to quilt, and I want you to be able to feel free to make mistakes and learn from your mistakes. And so I give you permission to do whatever it takes to learn. And, you know, that's what we do. I love quilting, and I know you all do too. That's why you've joined me today. So thank you for joining me. We'll see you next week.